Okay, the next thing that you have to understand is that America is a racist, white supremacist country. And New York City is no exception to that, not in any way whatsoever. If you think that the election of Zoran Mamdani disproves that, then you really don't know how any of this works. I'll explain to you this way. What do so-called white people do when they become a minority in any given neighborhood? You know, when that neighborhood used to be all white or majority so-called white, and they start seeing minorities and immigrants and so forth moving in. Well, everybody knows what white people do. They leave. They move out. That's the historical pattern. They up stakes. They abandon ship. You know, they say, there goes the neighborhood. And they pack their bags. They don't want to be in a place if they can't dominate it culturally, if they can't dictate the culture and dictate the tone and dictate the character of that neighborhood, of that place. They just leave and don't look back. Okay? So New York City, so-called white people are less than a third of the total population. I think they were like 33% or so of the population around 5 years ago, and it has decreased since then. So New York City, for them, it's a write-off. It's a loss in terms of the social contract. I mean, I'm not saying that they've abandoned New York City altogether, but in terms of the social contract, this is what I've been talking about for a long time. All of the social contracts in America are being annulled. To whatever extent they were ever honored in the first place, that's up for debate, but they're all being annulled at this point. New York City is just an example of that. It's just an example. And the election of Mamdani is actually proof of that. It's a proof of white supremacy. It's not a disproving of it. Understand? The power structure remains in New York City. I'm not saying that the power structure is abandoned. The top two tiers are still there. They're not writing the city off because they can still extract from the city. But now the mediator between the top tiers of the power structure and the public, which is the elected officials, that middle management, you know, the floor of the power structure that fields complaints, basically the sort of customer service department of the power structure. That's the politicians. That's being written off. Because the only customers that they ever listened to, the only customers that ever mattered anyway to them, were so-called white people, rich white people. But if the city is going to be like 80% African American, Latino, Asian, Muslim, immigrant, and what have you, well, they don't care anymore. They don't care if your mayor was Chat GPT. It wouldn't make any difference to them. They could care less. You understand what I'm saying? So, in my opinion, I would expect things to go downhill in New York rapidly. Not because of Mamdani, understand me. Not because of him, but because Mamdani's election is a sign that the power structure has already written New York off. You see what I mean? They made him the pilot because they know that the plane is already in a tailspin. And when it crashes, and it will crash, he'll be the one in the cockpit. Again, I'm not saying anything about Mamdani's stated policy goals or even his perceived or inferred policy goals. That's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant. This is what I keep telling you. The downward trajectory of the United States of America is irreversible. And that includes New York, and it includes New York City. It includes Chicago. It includes Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, every major urban center in America. The train that you're on has no brakes, and the track is running out. There are no brakes on that train, and there's definitely no reverse gear. Look, New York City has been hemorrhaging rich households for at least the past decade. You understand? People with incomes over $200,000 a year have been migrating out of New York for at least the last decade. Millionaires too. New York has lost something like $14 billion because of this exodus of rich people. Because like I said, that's what they do. They move out the neighborhood. And these are the people whose complaints got listened to. These are the ones who the customer service department is for in the first place. Customer service department meaning the government, the state government, the city government. So crime and violence is going to increase in New York, in my opinion. Racial tensions will increase, poverty, homelessness. All of this is going to get worse. But if you think that that's because of Mamdani, or if you think that Mamdani will or can prevent this from happening, then like I say, you really don't understand what is happening. You don't understand what is happening or why it will happen. And making sure that you do not understand this is exactly the purpose of the consolidated narrative positions about Mamdani. Understand, the America of your imagination does not exist. It already doesn't exist. And that includes the America in which you imagine that a Mamdani or an AOC or a Bernie Sanders or an Obama or a Kamala is going to come to the rescue. The right and the left, the Democrats and the Republicans, are just two sides of one system, and that system is against you. You need to understand this. It's like the right and left barrels of one shotgun. It doesn't matter if the shells are loaded in the right barrel or if they're loaded in the left barrel. Those bullets are going to shoot whichever way that shotgun is pointed, and both barrels of that shotgun are pointed directly at your head.